What's up guys, my name is Orlando and this is my channel Data Minds, that we can learn more about data science, machine learning and deep learning processes in AI. In today's video I will teach you how can we get some data set from Kaggle like this, predict customer churn and make some predictions with machine learning algorithms. And I will teach you with a step-by-step process. And so the first step is obviously get this data from Kaggle. This step is easy and straightforward if you have a Kaggle API. So if you don't have an API key from Kaggle, I advise you to create your API keys with this option on the screen. As long as you have this API key, the process of import this data is very simple. On this second option on the screen, which calls data, you can click on this option and get the data using this option which calls download all files. And as you can see on the screen, you have this code for import all the data that you want to work with your machine learning or deep learning pre-processing. In this video, I will use the VS Code for editing my code and make a notebook with IPython notebook. But if you want to use the Google Colab, it's not a problem. So in this step, I will create a notebook, IPython notebook in VS Code. And I will create a cell to add the code that we see before. So you have to copy this code and paste in the first cell that you can see on the screen. With this code, we can import or download the data from Kaggle. Let's choose these environments that I have here, and executing this cell, we can make our download, and the path of computation is saved on this file. So once you have this execution of this code and have the data that you will work with this data set, you can add another libraries that will be very important for our machine learning pre-processing and predicting for these data sets. For the machine learning process, I will import the library scikit-learn. I will import the standard scale and one-hot encoder. In the case of the metric, I will import metrics, import rock aux score. From scikit-learn.compose, I will import the column transformer. And the model that we will use for make our predictions on this dataset, it will be the XGBoost classifier. So you can import using this code on the screen. And for now, I think that this is enough for what we want to do on this dataset. And so, going for the next step, another important thing that we have to do is read the data. And for this, we can use the function from pandas read from CSV. And as a path for this data frame for training, we can pass the path that we used before, and using the f-string format, you can pass the complete path for this data set. String.csv and make the same thing for the test data set. Okay, is correct. And so okay, let's see some data from this data set. We have some data here. let's we use the describe function. Okay, and let's use the info function for see some important insights from this data set. So the main goal of this video is how can we get this data and apply some machine learning algorithms and make some predictions and submit this from Kaggle platform. It's not a goal for this video teach you how can we make a complete data science process to find some relations or some important things inside the data. And so because of this, I will skip some steps from the data science preprocessing and go directly from the machine learning preprocesses and make our predictions on this data set. And so for this data frame, I will remove the column ID because this column doesn't have any valuable prediction for our target variable churn. And I think it's important to change some values in these columns because in my opinion, if the column only have the yes or no values, we can change this and put values integers like 1 or 0. So we can see this using this function that I will code in here. Select the types, include string values, and I can get your columns. And I can put this in a variable like call categorical. So for call in call categorical, I can see with this function here unique how many values that we have on this data set and how many unique values we have on this column on the data set. And so we see that partner only have the yes or no values. Another columns like dependents and font service also only have two values with yes or no. And I will put this on this list. Calls to transform. And so we can use the apply function for all these columns and using lambda too. Okay, I think with this we can transform these columns with yes or no on only numbers like 1 and 0. Okay, let me see the data sets. And yeah, we can transform and we get this. So another important step by preprocessing the data that you have to do before send this to our model is to preprocess the integer values on this data set. But before do this, I forgot to save the value ID on a variable to our predictions after all this process and predict our test data. So we have the categorical columns to transform, and we have to save on this variable numeric columns the variables which have numeric values. Okay, numeric values, columns, and another important thing that we have to do is to transform the target variable churn, and we will transform this value for only 1 and 0 values too. And I think I can do this before concatenate the two data sets that I made here. And so I think I can do this. No, it's the train data sets. Okay, I will restart the kernel and do this process here, and let me see if I okay concatenate this churn. The key here was churn, so we don't have this. Oh, I put dataset train. okay. Execute this element below, and yeah, we can see that the value of churn is changed, and we have now only 1 and 0 values. And for now, it's important to remove this column from the numeric values, because these numeric values, and for now it's important to remove this column from this variable, because we send these numeric values to a column transformer that we will apply the standard scale of preprocessing function. And so this is the column that we have the preprocessing with standard scale. This is the columns that we have to transform with one hot coding, and I will put this on the variable columns, one hot columns here, and columns to remove is important to put here too. So I will remove the ID column, and we can do this now using this process. Drop columns equals calls to remove, and yeah, we can make our preprocessing with the column transformer. Transformers, we will apply the numeric with the standard scalar, and the variables will be columns to preprocess that I put here. We use categorical with one hots encoded. I will put some argument here, or that will be handle null, ignore, and sparse outputs. I will put false, and it's important for you put reminder pass through. And so I will apply this for our data set that we mentioned before, and I will rename this for dataset preprocessing, and I will put this in this form, and I will make this preprocessing using the fit transform, and passing the data frame that we are using for this machine learning preprocessing. After this, it's important that you know that this preprocessing remove the name of the columns, and so you can get these names using the function get feature names out that are inside of this preprocessing. And so we can rename the columns names and get there from this function get feature names out. And I will save this with a data frame that have the same name that we are using before. So after that, we can put this here and see what was happening. Got another values. Oh, I forgot to pass here the third parameter that was this with this column that we have to encode. I did not find the indexes because I removed this here, and after execute this cell again we get this error. So we have to restart and run all for get all the preprocessing correctly. What is error? Index that will be one dimensional. The error is on our line. What's the inside of this? Let me see. Okay, we have this preprocessing. Oh, it's not necessary to do this, I think. Column names. Oh, it's the same error. We have to restart the kernel and run all again, but now I think I get right. Okay, let me see if I do correctly this time. And yeah, all the features are preprocessing, and I think they are ready to send for our model to make some predictions. And so once we have all of this ready for our model, we can separate our data set, because this data set that we are working on, it's the data set which we combine the data frame train and data frame test. And how can we separate this? We can use this slicing function. So training data will be the df all the lines until the df train dot shape the number of lines, and the testing data will be from this line specifically to the end of our data frame. So with this we can separate correctly our data training for training in our data for testing. We have to change this testing data. So another thing that we have to do is to remove the column remind and churn that we have on the test data. So testing data will be the testing data dot drop columns equal reminder churn. And now we separate the x and y from this data set from training data. So the x will be all the columns on the training data, dropping the column targets that will be remind and churn, and our y will be the training data, only the variable or the feature that we want to predict reminder churn. And so now we have to separate this with train, validation, and testing sets for our machine learning algorithm. So shuffle true, and I will put this stratify with with y, and I will repeat this and changing the name, put this wrong here. Temp, okay, I will put temp here. Okay, okay, will be 50%, so it will be temp here. Let me check the shape. Okay, so our next and last step will be the instantiation of our model to classify the predictions that we have to do in this data set. And for this, we will use the classification of XGBoost algorithms, and these parameters that I will choose and I will show for you is very important and it's very great for our predictions. So in this website from Kaggle, we can get these parameters here and use for our classification. So I will copy this and I will put here, and I will use 100. The volumetric will be area under the curve. That will be especially the metric that the dataset of this competition wants to use. Here we can see this on here, and I will fit this with these parameters here. Fit here. Okay, let's only organize this and be a classifier predict probe test all the lines from the second column. So yeah, we have the predictions here, and we will compare this with our labels. It's a good score from this, 91%, and I think it's good for our model for this first trial on this data set. We will create a new data frame for our submissions. So this is our predictions final. I will put this name. Final will be pd.dataframe. Have the values IDs. Let me see how is the format of the submissions. Would be this format ID. That will be IDs. This remind and churn. But a training data. It's testing data, sorry. Okay, the to CSV function index false. Okay, let me see. Okay, and so you can click here and make your submission correctly. And with this, our submission will be on the Kaggle platform, and you can see your score on here. If you like this video, please send a comment below, subscribe for this new channel, and see you later, guys.